Okay, here we go. I'm going to go from number 5 to number 1. Number 5, Josh, we just talked about it. A little bit of a spoiler from the last segment. Sunday Night Football. Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, the number 2 overall pick in last year's class, the number 1 overall pick in this year's class. Will Chicago put up a fight against Houston, or will they ultimately get blown out? Will CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans put on a display, and we get to see the number 1 overall pick, the prime, the guy who is expected to save the franchise in Chicago in prime time on Sunday Night Football. Number 4, we're going to the city of brotherly love for Monday Night Football between the Atlanta Falcons, Kirk Cousins, Monday Night Football in prime time, taking on my Philadelphia Eagles. Atlanta looked awful week 1 in what looked like a Steeler home game against the Atlanta Falcons. Can they bounce back? I am already on record that Atlanta will start 0-3 and win the division. Now, we
Not
get
if Tampa has anything to say about it.
to game number 3. Thursday night football. Buffalo at Miami. Big game. Both teams are 1-0. I did call Arizona taking the points. Thought I had them for the money line for most of that game. Buffalo, an incredible second half comeback on the legs and arm of Josh Allen. Now they go down to South Beach, which, again, another weird week 1 and another horrific incident involving Tyreek Hill that those police officers had no business doing what they did. Fortunately for Tyreek, he was able to play in the game and had a crazy touchdown in the game as well.
I
Miami now.
believe I believe one of his touchdown celebrations, he actually put his hands behind his back like he was getting arrested.
Um, so Miami now will look to go to 2-0. Buffalo will look to go to 2-0. First game on Amazon Prime of the season out of the AFC East. Number 2, NFC divisional round rematch. You mentioned this team about 15 seconds ago. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They looked really good against the Commanders. How good will they look when they go up against the Detroit Lions in a rematch? That's a 1 o'clock game. I will have that game on my second screen, and I cannot wait to see that. And then the number 1 game of the week for yours truly, 425 on CBS. Jim Nance, Tony Romo on the call, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, 3 out of the last 4 AFC championship games. Bengals, Chiefs.
Okay. I will tell you that we agree on only 2 of those games.
Okay.
And for me, my number 1 game is the play NFC divisional round rematch. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Detroit Lions. Think about the psychology the Lions are dealing with right now. In week 1, they have a rematch of the wild card round. In week 2, they have a rematch of the divisional round. Both games last year came right down to the final seconds. In this year's game, it went into overtime against the Rams. Meanwhile, for the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield looked great, 4 touchdowns, as you mentioned, against the Commanders. How's this game going to play out? So I've got that number 1 on my list. Number 2, this is the other game we agree with. Sunday Night Football. Number 1 pick from this year's draft against the number 2 pick from last year's draft. Caleb Williams against CJ Stroud. 2 young quarterbacks, 2 teams that we project to be in the playoffs this season. We project big things from Houston. Maybe not such big things from Chicago, but still somewhat high expectations. So it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out. All right, number 3, 2 0-1 teams in an NFC West battle out in the desert. LA Rams against the Arizona Cardinals. We both agreed. We said this last week. The Cardinals are going to be a pesky team this season. And it looked like they were going to go into Buffalo and pull off the win if Kyler Murray had just looked up and seen Marvin Harrison Jr. wide open. I think Arizona wins that game. But nonetheless, it didn't play out that way. And as I just mentioned, the Rams fell to the Lions in overtime. So, how do both teams respond from games they both should have won? In
Puka
the,
Nakua also out for the Rams. Are still dealing with offensive line injuries. That was number 6 on my list.
I okay, I just think this is going to be a fascinating matchup. It's the NFC West. It's very intriguing to me. Okay, number 4. I'm going to the land of 10,000 lakes, San Francisco at Minnesota. We talked about it a little bit. The Vikings looked good in week 1, but it was against the Giants. Now you have the San Francisco 49ers coming to town. Last season on Monday Night Football, Minnesota defeated San Francisco um, in Minnesota, but that was with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback. Now they have Sam Darnold. And Brandon Ayuk finally got his contract resolved. Trent Williams got his contract resolved. How does San Francisco come off winning that game against the Jets, go across the country to play Minnesota? I think that's a very intriguing matchup. And then number 5, I'm headed to the Rocky Mountains. You've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, who won in Atlanta without scoring a single touchdown. They kicked 6 field goals and somehow won.
Such a Steeler game.
It was hilarious. Going against Denver, who got 2 safeties in the game.
In the first half.
Yes, and yet they still lost. So, and we thought it was going to be maybe Russell Wilson playing his former team, but it was announced today that it's going to be Justin Fields again. So, this is just a very intriguing matchup to me. And
Can I make a bold prediction real quick?
Go ahead.
I know I said going into the year, I'm already wrong, obviously. I said, now I did say unless Russ gets hurt, there's no way Pittsburgh would want to play Justin Fields because of the trade situation. They'd have to give him a 4th if he plays over half the snaps versus 6. I'm a complete 180. I don't think Russell Wilson takes the field this year.
I'll give you my 2 honorary mentions. Colts Packers would be an honorary mention, and then my other one would be Seahawks at the Patriots.
I'm shocked you don't have Cincinnati and Kansas City anywhere near that list.
Just the way Cincinnati looked in week 1, it takes some of the intrigue away from that game, in my opinion.
Oh, if you're telling me I get Burrow and Mahomes, I don't care what they look like.
Burrow Mahomes usually delivers.
That's what I'm telling you. I think Cincinnati is going to give Kansas City everything they can handle. I don't think they're necessarily going to win the game, but I think this will be a way closer game than people think.
But weren't you the one that was just saying Kansas City could possibly blow them out?
No.
I could have sworn you said that earlier.
I said, listen, Cincinnati, it's possible they don't win the game, but I said they're going to play well.
Burrow does have a winning record against Mahomes. I'll give you that. But just the way Cincinnati played offensively, there's just something about it that was off-putting. And the fact that they're taking that type of performance, into Arrowhead Stadium against the back-to-back Super Bowl champs, given the way Kansas City's offense looked last week, I don't know.
I could live. I get the San Francisco Minnesota injury because I was thinking about that game as well, and I get Rams Arizona. I think Buffalo Miami is also personally up there for me more than Pittsburgh Denver. I get it. It could be a potential. I know you're higher on Denver than I am. It's really where it comes in at. I get Pittsburgh and the Denver and the Mike Tomlin Fields going up to Mile High, but that Buffalo Miami game could be potentially the difference between who wins the AFC East and who doesn't.
Don't know what Grandizer is trying to say here, but he says, Josh, he did not say that, nor did he intend to say that. Now, if he wanted to say it, that's something else.
Basically, what he's saying is, I did not say that Cincinnati was going to get blown out by Kansas City.
Okay, then I misinterpreted what you were saying, so I apologize there. But anyway, Cincinnati could hang tough with Kansas City, but I just didn't like the way Cincinnati played last week, and that took some of the intrigue away from that matchup.